Hi, so we will start with the introduction. So first, I will introduce to you Rosalie Elasus. But first, who is she and what is her contribution? So in 2001, Rosalie Elasus, a former overseas Filipino worker in Singapore turned farmer, attended the Integrated Post-Management Farmers Field School and was introduced to BT corn. So, what is BT corn? BT corn is a genetically modified corn that is resistant to the destructive Asian corn borer. Miss Elasus volunteered for demo testing in her field. BT corn yielded 7.2 tons per acre as compared to a regular yield of a 4.2 tons per hectare. No insecticide spraying was needed. This is one of the first success stories of genetically modified organisms or GMOs. Genetic engineering has been with the human society since selective breeding was introduced to humankind and when animals were domesticated. Yet the process of genetic alterations is all but natural. It was in 1951 that the term genetic engineering was coined by Jack Williamson, author of the science novel fiction Dragon's Island. This was years before actual research findings on the DNA's role in hereditary and its structure, the double of helix of Watson's and Crick, were published. Through continuous research for development, genetic engineering no longer stayed in science fiction novel and it became a reality. On the other hand, great fears loom in the process of this quest. There are many things to be considered before a certain medical process using genetic engineering be accepted. These concerns were affirmed by the reports of the World Health Organizations, who reported three major issues on GMOs that are in the international public debate. These are the potential risk of allergic reactions, gene transfer, flow, and the outcrossing. The primary issue on GMOs presented in the public debate is its unnatural production or what is termed to be a violation of nature. The creation of the new organisms like GMOs pose moral issues and defiance to natural laws. Another concern is the potential risk to the environment and human health to which so much is...
So, ano nga ba ang GMO? Genetically Modified Organism or GMO is the term used for an organism created through genetic engineering. This is commonly used in food and medicine. So, dito sa genetically modified organism, according to World Health Organization 2014, pwede din daw po siyang organism, either plant, animal, or any microorganism, which yung genetic material po nila or yung DNA has been altered naturally. So, sila po yung mga white variety or organism that had been genetically modified from animals to plant and microorganism. So, yung genes po ay have been altered or transferred within the same species. Pwede din po siyang a fresh species. So, what is the purpose of GMO? The development of GMO was perceived to help in the advancement of technology for the benefit of humans in different industries like agriculture and medicine. So, ito yung genetic engineering process on a plant. So, first ay sa bacteria, and then next is yung sa DNA extraction. Ang bacteria po pala ay ine-extract po niya or ina-isolate po yung bacteria that will be using. After is cloning and assigning genes para po mag-multiply po yung result, and then transformation. Bale sa transformation, i-convert na siya into cell and tissue, saka po ipaplant. I-implement po sa plant, so ito na yung tinatawag na plant breeding.
GMOs in food and agricultural industries. According po sa Center of Ecogenics and Environmental Health or the CEEH, the following are the roles of GMOs in food and agricultural industries. First po is pest resistance. Here, crops po became resistant to pest na po. An example of this was the BT corn, wherein its DNA was modified with soil bacterium that produces proteins na toxic to corn borers or worms po. Second is virus resistance, where just like the first one, crops became resistant to viruses. An example of this was the rainbow papaya. Papaya ring spot virus is detrimental papaya plants. A protein of this was introduced to the papaya through plant tissue, which turned out to be resistant to the virus po. Ang epekto po nito ay tulad ng epekto ng isang vaccine sa isang tao. The third one is herbicide tolerance. An example of this was Roundup Ready soybean. A herbicide po for weeds was introduced to the soybeans, making it tolerant to it. Now po, farmers can spray herbicides on weeds and kill it while not affecting the soybeans. Fourth is fortification po, wherein when a plant or a crop was introduced to a vitamin or a mineral, the plant became fortified with it. An example of this po would be the golden rice po, wherein vitamin A was introduced to the rice, making the grains po fortified with vitamin A. Fifth one po was cosmetic preservation, which is the resistance to natural discoloration. An example po nito is the Arctic apple. Dito po, sinusuppress po yung browning of apples due to superficial damages po. The last one po, the sixth one is increased growth rate. Dito po, plants yield faster and higher in growth than normal species po. An example of this would be aqua advantage salmon. A gene from an ocean pout was introduced to Pacific Chinook salmon, making it grow faster than its normal rate po.
Genetically modified organisms in non-food crops and microorganisms. First is flower production. It is seen in modified color and extended phase life of flowers. Examples are blue roses and etc. Second is paper production. Roughly 200 chemicals are used to break down tree fibers so it can be used to make the myriad paper products we use daily. But researchers have now genetically engineered trees that are easier to break down, which could reduce the amount of chemicals and energy used in the paper making process. Three is pharmaceutical productions. Animals or animal cells are created so they serve as bioreactors. To produce these drugs at an industrial scale, animal products such as milk, egg, white blood, urine, and silkworm cocoons have been used to produce complex drugs that can't be made by chemical synthesis. Four is bioremediation. Uses the living organisms like plants and microorganisms to detoxify environmental pollutants into minimal toxic forms. The microorganisms play a main role in transforming the toxic compounds through the biochemical reactions that take place as a part of their metabolism. 5. Enzyme and drug productions. Genetically modified enzymes are designed to improve or alter the enzymological products and or increase purity and yield of expression, changes which can be attributed to the altered amino acid sequence resulting from gene sequence manipulation. And last, GMOs in the medical field. So it somehow summarizes the things that I said earlier.
Benefits of GMOs. So, the first is higher efficiency in farming. With the use of pesticide resistance or herbicide tolerant GMO crops, there will be less for herbicides, pesticides, and lower cost for labor and cultivation. So, for example po dito, ay, kunwari po may maliit na plant, then ginagamitan siya ng pesticide. So, habang lumalaki, nasasanay ang plant na yon sa pesticide. Then, pag malaki na po, hindi na po ganun kailangan ng pesticide dahil po ay sanay na ang plant na yon. So, the next one is increase in harvest. GMO crops resistance to pests and diseases mean increase in potential growth and harvest. So, tatanungin ko kayo, ano ang kalagahan ng pesticide? So, ang kahalagahan ng pesticide ay sa isang plant ay para mawala yung peste. Para gumanda yung plant. So, pag maganda yung plant, marami kayong mga harvest or marami kayong maaani sa isang plant na yon. Yun po ang increase in harvest. So the next is control infertility. Controlling the purity of the hybrid seeds, GMO seeds ensure higher yields. So dito po sa GMO seeds ay napakaganda, kaya pag naging plant ay maganda rin ang resulta. So the next is increase in food processing. A third characteristics of GMO crops help is food processing. So, alam naman natin kapag processing food is sa mga factory. So, mas madali ang food processing kapag GMO. Yun lang po ang aking topic na na-assign. Thank you.
Improvement of desirable characteristic. GMOs or general modified organisms, it offer longer shelf life, enhanced color and taste, enhanced production or reduction of enzymes, and other modified characteristics of plants, animals, and microorganisms. 6. Nutritional and pharmaceutical enhancement. GMO crops like maize fortified with lysine and golden rice, fortified with vitamin A and iron. There are now edible vaccines for viral and diarrheal diseases. 7. Reduce the use of fertilizers and pesticides. There are over 400 million acres of GMO farmlands all over the world. There are top 5 countries that operate GMO farmlands: the United States, Brazil, Argentina, India, and Canada. The GMO agricultural crops that have been approved for public consumption and are already in the market include alfalfa, corn, papaya, soybean, sugar beets, and squash. Most of the crops are made to be resistant to pests. Some examples of common food with GMOs are Kellogg's Corn Flakes, Quake's Chewy Granola, Ultra Slim Fast Quick Yellow Cornmeal, and Alpha Dry Pet Food. In the animal industries, there are ongoing researches like studies on Pacific salmon that grows twice faster than the normal salmon and chicken resistant to H5N1 bird flu viruses. These GMO animals are all in research laboratory and not yet approved for public consumptions.
So we can see that genetically modified organism has its benefits, but also it has a potential risk for human and environment. So what it is? So it has the inadequate study. So dahil nga ang genetic engineering ay isa pa lang siya na bagong branch ng science, ay wala pa masyadong malawak na pag-aaral patungkol sa genetic engineering. And also, dahil nga wala pang malawakang pag-aaral patungkol sa genetic engineering, ay hindi rin alam kung kumbaga ay unknown pa rin ang long-term effects nito sa human at sa environment.
Human consumption of GMO might have the following effects. First is more allergic reaction, gene mutation, antibiotic resistance, and nutritional value. More allergic reaction, GMO food may trigger more allergic reaction, more so create new ones as side effect of the gene alteration. Mas dumadami ang nagkaka-allergy sa mga GMO na pagkain kasi may mga insecticide sa loob na ang ibang tao ay hindi pwede sa ganong substance o chemicals kaya madami nagkaka-allergy. Gene mutation. GMO food may develop abnormalities and mutation more than the desire of product of the gene alteration. Ito ay pag-develop ng abnormalities na parang sa mga hayop din. 'Di ba may hayop na dalawa ang ulo, sobra ang paa, kulang ang kamay o sa part ng kanilang mga muka, parang sa tao din 'yon. Antibiotic resistance. GMO food contains antibiotic resistance genes. This may cause disease, causing bacteria likely to be more antibiotic resistant too, increasing the possibility of widespread of the disease. Nagkokos ito ng sakit at mga diseases, mga sakit na galing sa bacteria o sa mga antibiotic. Nutritional value. GMO food may have change in their nutritional value. When it comes sa GMO, na minsan nagiging mababa, mataas yung nutritional value niya kasi depende sa ilalagay na GMO.
So, potential environmental risk caused by GMOs. According to Karki 2006, summarize the perceived potential environmental risks caused by GMOs. The identified major risks are the following. The first one is risk in gene flow. So what is gene flow first? Gene flow is the movement of alleles from one population to another. So yung gene flow ay may potential risk to transfer the GMO crops to its wild organism because it allows genetic material to be transferred from any species tapos sa mga plants din as sa other organisms at pwede magkaroon ng genetic contamination sa environment. For example, yung GMOs that became plant could be possible transferred the modified genes sa bacteria at fungi sa lupa kasi they are capable of genetic material sa surrounding natin. The second one is emergence of new forms of resistance and secondary pests and weed problems. So, ang GMO daw ay nakakatulong sa pag-reduce ng paggamit ng pesticides, tapos ang overuse daw ng herbicides ay maaaring mag-trigger ng new form of weed resistance. And last, recombination of virus and bacteria to produce new pathogens. Sa recombinations ng virus at bacteria, nagpo-produce ng new pathogens, which is disease, na nakaka-apekto naman sa human beings. Like for example, ang China nag-produce ng new pathogens at ito nga yung COVID-19 na kumalat na sa lahat. Tapos, ang GE or genetic engineering can improve resistance to diseases and stop genetic diseases in humans. Through GE, maaaring gumawa ng treatment like vaccine against pathogens.
The potential environmental risks caused by GMOs. Molfino and Soko, 2008. Direct environmental risk. The first is introduction of GMO in the natural environment may cause disruption of the natural communities through competition or interference. When we say GMO, it is genetically modified organism. It is an animal, plant, or microbe whose DNA has been altered using genetic engineering techniques. 4,000 of years, humans have using breeding methods to modify organisms like corn, cattle, and even dogs have been selectively bred over generations to have certain desired traits. So, sinasabi dito sa statement na ito na ang GMO ay natural na kapaligiran ay maaaring magdulot ng pagkagambala sa mga natural na komunidad sa pamamagitan ng kompetisyon o paghihimagsik. Then the second statement is the possibility of unexpected behavior of GMOs in the environment if it escapes its intended use and may pose threats or become pests. So yun, sinasabi dito na sa kapaligiran ay like doon sa animals, yung pigs, may mga peste na virus na dumadaloy dito like the swine fever. Dito namamatay at napepeste yung mga GMO natin na inaalagaan. The third is may cause harmful effects to ecosystems processes if GMOs interfere with the natural biochemical systems. So yun, sinasabi dito na hindi lahat ng GMO is yung okay or good sa iba. May mga epekto din na ito na bad sa ecosystem at ito ay minsan ay nakakasagabal sa biochemical cycle. The fourth is the persistence of GMO genes after its harvest, which may cause negative impacts to the consumer of GMO products. So, sinasabi dito sa statement nito, ang GMO ay nagbibigay din ng negatibo epekto sa mga consumers, like doon sa mga binibiling baboy, sa GMO.
Next, we have the indirect environmental risk caused by GMOs. First, what is indirect? Indirect meaning it is not particularly caused by GMO. It can be caused by other significant events or circumstances, but there is still a probability or chances that it is caused by GMO. First is the alternations of agricultural practice, like managing negative impacts of GMOs to the environment, such as evolution of insects, pests, and weeds that became resistant to GMO products. But there are no perfection in everything. That's why there can be a problem in in the GMO products, which we know that it helps the GMO products to grow the crops, but it can also help the insects to grow, to evolve, and to become resistant. The next one is they have impacts the biodiversity caused by the alternation in agricultural practices because of the changes in agricultural practices, the alternation. There can be effects to the biodiversity, such as our soil. There can be it can destroy our soil nutrients, which helps crops to grow better, and also the other living things that helps our ecosystem. Then the last one is they may have varied environmental impacts due to GMOs interaction and release in the natural environment. Once they failed on the GMO products, it goes or released to the natural environment, it will be hard to execute it, to change it. And of course, these are the indirect environmental risks caused by GMOs, meaning it is not directly caused by GMO products. It can be caused by other significant events or circumstances. But here are the probabilities.
Potential human health risks caused by GMOs. A major concern in the use and consumption of GMOs is its effects on human beings, primarily on human health. Some potential human health risks are identified according to Actor 2001. Number 1, consumption of GMOs may have adverse effects since it is not organically or naturally produced. Second,
Consumption of GMOs may alter the balance of existing microorganisms in the human digestive system. Third, production of toxins may be detrimental to human health. And fourth, production of allergens may have adverse effect on humans. So worldwide, there are many groups that campaign against GMO food consumption. They encourage people to boycott GMO products and to be vigilant in checking if the food they buy has GMO ingredients. So in the Philippines, here in our country, the Supreme Court has ruled against the use of BT eggplant, another genetically modified crop, according to Kiko 2016.
The Human Genome Project. It was an international scientific research with the goal of determining the base pairs that make up human DNA and of identifying, mapping, and sequencing all of the genes of the human genome from both a physical and a functional standpoint. So what are the consequences of THG project? First, it may cause a loss in human diversity. It could also develop a trend in designer humans. Its information could be used to form new weapons. It could become the foundation of genetic racism. And last, it would be most accessible only to wealthy cultures. Consequences of genetically engineered microorganisms. First, it can be toxic. It can also lead to allergic reactions, immunosuppression, cancer, and loss of nutrition. Consequences of mutation. First, the process is not entirely safe, and it is regarded as unethical, also known as man playing God. This includes an increase in birth size and a variety of defects in vital organs such as the liver, brain, and the heart. Other consequences include premature aging and problems with the immune system. Another potential problem centers on the relative age of the cloned cells' chromosomes.
Biosafety on GMO. The Codex Alimentarius Commission, the international food standards setting body established by United Nations, Food and Agriculture Organization, and the World Health Organization. They are responsible in protecting consumers' health and ensuring fair practices in the food trade. Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety is a legally binding global protocol that seeks to contribute to ensuring the safe transfer, handling, and use of living modified organisms created through modern biotechnology. Last, International Trade Agreement on Labeling of GM food and food products, only required when the food is significantly different from its conventional counterpart in terms of composition, nutrition, and allergenicity. It will help them be fully informed and less confused when they consider buying GMO products.
In 1990, the NCBP was created, or what we call the National Committee on Biosafety of the Philippines, through the Executive Order Number 430 of 1990. NCBP developed the guidelines on the planned release of genetically manipulated organisms and potentially harmful exotic species in 1998. In 2002, the Department of Agriculture released Administrative Order number 8, the guideline for the important and release into the environment of GM plants and plant products. On the same year, the entry of GMO importation started. The Philippines must work to be the first country in Asia to approve commercial cultivation of GMOs, with GM corn planting was approved in 2002.
In 2004, the Philippines was classified by International Service for Acquisition of Agribiotic Application as one of the 14 biotic mega countries countries which grow 50,000 hectares or more of GMO crops annually, based on James 2004. In that same year, Senator Juan Clavier authored a bill on the mandatory labeling of food in food products with GMOs. The Senate did not pass the bill. In 2006, the Philippines became part of the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. In the same year, Executive Order Number 514 was issued to address the biosafety requirements of the Cartagena Protocol in the establishment of the National Biosafety Framework, or NBF. In 2010, the Organic Agriculture Act was issued, encouraging the organic agriculture than GMO-related agriculture. Prior to this act, there are several provinces like Negros Occidental and Negros Oriental which agreed to support organic agriculture. There was the establishment of the Negros Organic Island through Memorandum of Agreement, or MOA, between the two provinces in 2005. With this Memorandum of Agreement, the two provinces were able to ban the entry of GMOs and living GMOs to their provinces through provincial ordinance. Similar to this case, Davao City passed the Organic Agriculture Ordinance in 2010. This city ordinance helps the prevention of field testing of GMO, the eggplant in the UP Mindanao campus, by Arwelo 2016.
In 2012, Representative Teddy Casino, who best known for upholding the rights of the poor and marginalized sectors together with other congressmen, filed a bill pushing for the mandatory labeling of GM food and food products. From Casino, the measure seeks to uphold the Filipino consumers' right to be informed of the contents of what they are buying and eating. This right to an informed choice will only be possible if proper labeling is present in food products, particularly those containing or have undergone genetic modification. There have been many cases discovered which should tell us that genetically modified products could seriously harm human beings and the environment. In 2015, the Supreme Court ordered to put an end to the field of GMO, or BT eggplant, and declared Administrative Order Number 8 Series of 2002 of the Department of Agriculture that there exists a preponderance of evidence that the release of GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, into the environment threaten to damage ecosystems and eventually the health of the Filipino people from the consumptions of the GM eggplant. Current scientific research indicates that the biotech industry has not sufficiently addressed the uncertainties over the safety of GMO foods and crops. In March 7, 2016, there are five government agencies passed Joint on Department Circular Number 1, Series of 2016, which are the Department of Science and Technology, Department of Agriculture, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Department of Health, and Department of the Interior and Local Government, governing the research and development, handling and use, transboundary movement, release into the environment, and management of genetically modified plant and plant products derived from the use of modern biotechnology. This joint department circular paves way to issuance of new permits for planting and importing GM crops in the country.
Genetic engineering is an emerging field of science. Its quest to preserve and prolong life. Genetic engineering, also called genetic modification, is a process that uses laboratory-based technologies to alter the DNA makeup of an organism. This may involve changing a single base pair A to T or C to G, deleting a region of DNA or adding a new segment of DNA. Mabilis?
Advantages example genetic engineering to enhance organism has already been used extensively in agriculture, primarily in genetically modified GM or GM crops, also known as GMO, genetically modified organism. For example, crops and stock animals have been engineered so they are resistant to herbicide and pesticides, which means farmers can then use those chemicals to control weeds and insects on those crops without risking harming those plants. Due to genetic engineering and GMOs, humans seek answers to life's predicaments, and humans like to play God.